Hi, and welcome to FrazlCast. Climb aboard the Gnome Train.
Woo! Chugga, 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 woo!
Please make sure to keep your limbs and experimental instruments inside the train at all times. And now, on with the show.
A podcast by a Blizzard fan gnome about World of Warcraft and geeky stuff. I promise you, they do talk about the World of Warcraft. They just go off the rails sometimes.
Well, I'm Frazley, and I am joined by Katie of The Tauren and the Goblin!
Hello! It's nice to be here.
I've been excited to have you here ever since BlizzCon. It always amazes me. I set the date thinking, okay, well, it'll be here. Then it's like, it's now tonight, and like, wow, it's already time.
I know, it's one of those podcasting world, right? Like, oh, I gotta get you into my show, and that's like half a year later, you're like, oh yeah, I still need to do that.
Yeah, I've got everything planned out up to whenever, or sometime in October, because I still am holding out hope for the BlizzCon, because BlizzCon weekend, I always do a pre-recorded show. So I'm just like waiting to like, my crossed finger being like, okay, but if there's a virtual BlizzCon, then we're all good, because no one has to travel.
Right, no one has to travel, and we can still all hang out. So it'll be great no matter what.
And you know, a way to simulate a virtual BlizzCon is to bring a voice into the show that we all know in the community. Epicinsanity, what time is it?
It's time to go around the table.
It's just like he's right here. So yeah, great idea, Epicinsanity. What have we been up to?
I've actually been doing heroic raiding, and we almost killed N'Zoth, so we're very excited.
Nice.
I'm doing it with Had One Job, which is Daryl and Rob from the Training Dummies. They're in there. So that's always an interesting Friday night. It's a lot of fun, and everyone in that group is they're a riot. So we've been doing a lot of raiding. I have a brother that actually plays WoW as well, and he does very different WoW than I do typically. He's very into like PvP and other things, but
yeah,
he's like, oh, I'm bored, let's start playing together. And my dad plays Classic, so we all decided to get together on retail, and we got to play for a while, and so that's been great. Quarantine's actually got my family to play WoW finally. It's only taken 12 years. Did
your dad ever argue with about like how Classic is better than retail and stuff like that?
No, he's pretty good. He just likes to run around and, just kind of play the game. My brother definitely does. He's not quite a max minner, but he does, he's like, oh, well, this was better back then when we didn't have XYZ. And I'm like, okay, yeah, all right. But the lore, James.
Exactly. So I take it with the Shadowlands, you're going to go after the Covenant that you like the lore best, and your brother's going to go for the one that has like that ultimate Covenant ability.
Yep, that is exactly how it goes. I have to give him like the cliff notes. He's like, okay, so we went into this place called I'm like, Ny'alotha? He's like, yeah, that. What's the dragon in the front? I'm like, Wrathion? He's like, who's Wrathion? I'm like, he's the son of Deathwing. He's like, what? It just totally broke his melon. I was like, okay. So then I tried to explain to him as briefly as possible who the old gods were, who Wrathion was, why this was important, and what the heck Ny'alotha is, and why we were fighting Wrathion and Ny'alotha, and that took an hour. I tried really hard.
That's how Jin started More Than a Great Podcast with like Fear's the Raider and all that, and like Jin started explaining, it was like, you know what, we should record this and put it on a podcast.
Well, and that's more or less what I do with my brother is, we'll be doing something, and he's like, hey, I have a question. I'm like, do you want the short answer or the long answer? It's always the short answer. He doesn't like long questions.
And I have to say, in Shadowlands, there's a couple of things. I'm not reading the quest text until it launches. The problem, though, is there was one quest. Because I did not read the quest text, I ended up doing it the wrong way. I mean, I was able to mark a bug report because it did not work the way it was supposed to, but you're going to have to read the quest text in Shadowlands on a few things.
I am excited. I legitimately screenshot and categorize every single quest. So I kind of feel bad admitting this, but I actually have like folders and subfolders. I'm like, okay, this is like Desara lore, and then like here's this quest hub, and then these NPCs, and then I'm like, yeah.
Wow.
Like someone's like, oh, do you remember that quest? I'm like, yes, I do. Let me just pull it out. So I enjoy questing a lot. Probably more than most people. But I read all the quests. So everyone out there, I read every single one, and I love you people who make them. My brother auto skips all of them. That's why I'm making a point here to
exactly. And I bet that helps with show research for the Tauren and the Goblin.
It certainly does. Like it takes a lot to do zones. It can anyways, and so like you have to categorize what's important and what's just like fun stuff to talk about. And I usually struggle with that because I'm like, but we have to talk about this one NPC that says this one thing. And Nick's like, that's not important. I'm like, I don't care.
Yes.
every expansion I go around, I poke every NPC to see if they have unique dialogue. I do the whole gambit. I get way overexcited about this stuff, so here I am.
So I bet I can stump you. There's an NPC in the game in BFA. I'll make it easy. It's in BFA.
Okay.
That resembles my gnome character in both in like terms of quirkiness, but also what I love to do on my on Twitter.
Are they in not Nomergon, the Gnome Island? Why can't I remember what that's called?
Through them, I found out about Mechagon before everybody else even thought it was gonna be a thing.
Okay, it's not the gnome that leads you to Mechagon, right? Because I haven't done all of the Alliance side stuff.
Yes, it is a gnome because he's the one. A Wolford Fizz bracket. You take
Yes.
the selfies over in. You got it. I was like, yes. I knew you were gonna get it.
Well, I'm sorry I forgot his name. I kind of feel bad. I was with Gazlo, and Gazlo was like, "Hey, remember that jerk face?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do." Let's go hit him over the head. I love Gazlo. I'm sorry, Gazlo is my homeboy.
Gazlo's great. I love his personality, and I prefer him over Gallywix. I'm sorry, Gallywix.
No,
wear a shirt.
In general, in the Goblin community, Gazlo is like what we all think goblins are actually like, and Gallywix is kind of, to me, what people think goblins are like. So I don't know. Do goblin quests. That's all I'm going to say. They're a riot. They're always funny. They're good people. Everyone thinks they're terrible, but they're not. They're mostly Gazlos with some Gallywixes.
I love Sylvanas' comment about Gallywix's Pleasure Palace and Before the Storm. I love her disdain for it.
I died. I was so excited. Like, I was so excited that Christy Golden has been writing goblins in the story because they haven't really ever been in a book before, and gnomes too. And that was everything about it. I loved every time Gallywix or anyone that was, I don't know, anyone came on a page, I was like, oh my gosh. I get way overexcited. So I hear you.
So aside from WoW, anything else that you've been doing recently?
Well, so I've been playing a couple of just mobile titles. They're not like very exciting stuff, but it gives me something to do during the day when I can't play WoW.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been playing Animal Crossing. I've been making all kinds of WoW paraphernalia in Animal Crossing.
I saw that because I was doing some research before the show to make sure that I had a complete picture of you, and I was like, I love that. I love the art that you're putting out.
Well, thank you. I was very excited to make a Godzilla hoodie. That was really random, but I got really excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I can do that. I'm a huge nerd in all aspects, not just Warcraft. So I was like, Godzilla, yeah! Yeah! No, Animal Crossing's been great. I've been playing with Kaz, actually. So people know her as the girl who cosplayed Hogger in BlizzCon, I think it was 2018.
Yes.
So I've been playing with her, a couple of other people in the community, and it's been a lot of fun. So nice change of pace from WoW for a little bit. Yeah, and I know quite a few people who have been caught up in Animal Crossing, and I keep telling myself I don't need a Switch for me. I'm not saying Switch is back, because Switch is great, but I don't need it for me. But I've been checking GameStop and Amazon. It's like, I'm glad it's not available, because otherwise I would have an itchy finger would have purchased it, because I had the opportunity to buy it months ago, but I didn't have the money for it. Right. Now it's like, okay, now that I'm not going out to do different things, I've actually, all my regular hobbies I was doing outside of the house, I've saved up the money for it. But by the time things happen up again, I won't have the money it's like, can't win. So, what did me in was, I think it was BlizzCon 2018 when they released the limited edition Diablo Switch. Yeah. I was just like, well, okay, here's my money. I'm like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. Just give me it. Yeah. I was like, oh my gosh, it's a limited edition Blizzard thing. And I'm a huge Blizzard collector anyway, but I have a lot of Blizzard stuff. And so I got really excited about that. And that's what did me in. I was like, okay, I got to get the Switch. And so I actually bought it at BlizzCon. Nice. Very excited. Yeah. So I was like, I got way overexcited. Actually, these are limited edition headphones that I got at BlizzCon as well. Long time ago, 2014. Like, and they still work. That's incredible. They do. They're kind of hard to find, but they're really cool. It's the Iron Horde, so they're really cool. I'm not trying to make this like a Steel Series commercial, but like, check out my really cool headphones, you guys. Yeah, exactly. I have Steel Series that I use for gaming. These are Sony for the studio monitoring, but yeah, I mean, Steel Series makes a great pair of headphones. I've been impressed with them. Yeah, no, they've done a great job. I actually I don't want to keep being like, look how nerdy I am, but I have a Deathwing mouse as well. Oh, nice. My second one. I can't use anything else to raid. Like, all my keys I can't find a replacement for it. So this is my second one. I'm like, you better last longer. Steel Series stuff is good. That's what I was trying to get at before making it a commercial. And with your Steel Series mouse and your headphones, it is perfect to play a game called Secret Neighbor.
because in Secret Neighbor, you have to listen and be on voice chat with everybody in proximity. So I played it's based off Hello Neighbor, and it's a multiplayer version of it. Oh, this was so much fun. I went in with a group of people that I know. We were all in voice chat in there, and like you're like it's like 6 kids, but one of you is the neighbor. And the neighbor at any point can capture you, and you have to figure out who the neighbor is, and you have to also get keys to go into the basement to find his secret. Oh, this game is scary, but like I had so much fun. Here's what I did. I took my voice effects because at one point they found out I'm a bad liar, so they saw that I was the neighbor, and I was a clown. So I was like, "Hello, are you out there?" And with the voice proximity, it sounds so like if I'm upstairs and they're downstairs, it sounds so weird and like.
Oh my gosh, that's actually great. I'm kind of sad I missed this live.
I have to say, like gaming and they're doing so much great stuff with games, and that's why I've been enjoying playing with the Dragon Powered Studio crew, and we're just like trying different games out. There's one game I think you would also love. Have you heard of For the King? It was free on the Epic Store, so as long as Epic is not a dirty word in your vocabulary.
It's not. I have been asked to cancel Fortnite before, but I can't do that. So
okay.
But no, I actually haven't heard of For the King. Tell me about it. What is it about?
It is a online co-op tabletop where like you and 2 other people or was one person, but you go on as 3 characters and you're going across a hexagonal map, almost like Carcassonne. It feels like, but like doing dungeons, getting better, and you have an end goal. And we sadly got to the final tower and we just got obliterated and all our life pools went away. But it was a blast. I mean, just like I was a bard and like I had like a guitar lute. And I enjoyed that because like I love RPG games on the computer. I still at some point I'm going to get into a D&D game with somebody, but it was fun doing a D&D light, almost like a Munchkins, but with Carcassonne. Very
cool. It kind of sounds a little bit like a mixture of Munchkins and Dark. I don't know if you ever did Gauntlet Dark Legacy.
No, I never did that.
It's okay. That's an old one.
Okay.
That's like back in the GameCube days and before.
Okay, yes. I never owned a GameCube. I owned an N64, a SNES, but I somehow skipped the GameCube, and I missed like Wind Walker. I missed some good consoles.
Like, it's okay. I missed the SNES, so I feel like I had N64 and GameCube and forward, but I had to do an emulator for SNES.
Oh, yes.
Good old, I think it was Cherry ROMs back in the day. I don't even know. It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Gosh. But that's really cool. So you said that was For the King?
Yes, it was free on the Epic Store for a little bit, but I enjoyed it. I think it's not that expensive to buy nowadays, but it's one just go on online co-op with somebody. Like you can do barge and you unlock more stuff, so there's more for us to learn. But we just had a great time going back and forth, and it is turn-based, like a Final Fantasy VII.
I enjoy turn-based games. So this is actually, I've been trying to find lists of games that I can play with other people, because I mean, quarantine, right? Like,
yeah.
Fun to play with your family or whoever. So I always appreciate game suggestions, so I'll have to put that on my list.
And one final one I just got to mention again, because we've been having a great time, Among Us. This is a game that's on PC and iPhone and Android, but you are between, like, I say 4 to 10 people, because I think the max of the game is 10, and you want at least 4, but you're on a spaceship careening through space, and one of you, or 2 if you increase it, is the imposter. You're trying to kill everybody else on the ship. And we've been streaming this every other Tuesday, and it's fun to also stream it because chat can then be like telling you who the person is, so like they're helping you along. But then when someone kills you, like, Amanda, or like, oh, I just killed Cuffy again.
Oh my gosh, chat is pretty good for that kind of stuff. Good peanut
right.
gallery.
Yes, and I'd say just like the final thing, because like I love going back to classics, and I feel like my Dwarf Priest from Vanilla is a classic. I had not touched it since Vanilla, but now it is up to 117. So it's almost to 120, and I'm healing again. I've been getting tips from Ali, Pete, Cap, just different people have been helping me figure out things. Sai has helping me with healing too. And
awesome.
I got to say, I feel so bad at the sins against healers I've done as a DPS, because as a healer, you know everything that you're doing, like, I pulled too much threat. I lied aside his stuff. I was healing, and next to me on the Shadowpan Monastery, there was a shaman that kept having a spike come to the floor it wasn't anybody in our group. It was a pug, but I'm just like, don't you at least have DVM installed to see when that spike's gonna come up? Because I'm healing the tank, but yet you're taking a lot of damage from that spike, and then you're releasing ads. Avoid of course I was focused on healing, so I did release 1 or 2 spikes, but once I learned it, I stopped the spikes again. But yeah,
it's actually funny that you mentioned you must have been doing time walking. Is that?
Yeah.
I actually just did time walking with my dad and my brother. And my brother didn't do dungeons during Pandaria. He played during Pandaria. My dad's like, I have no idea what's going on. I've been a healer for years. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm like, heal. And my brother's like, so there's this bomb. And I'm like, okay, you need to take the bomb. And he just like, so we were doing the one where you're inside the Claxy tree and you have to go out and then drop bombs, like the tower defender. And so he's like, yeah, okay. So he takes the bomb and he runs down. I'm like, where are you going? And he's like, what? So don't I just stand out here and kill stuff? I'm like, this is my brother, right? So I'm all like, okay, we need to think of a strategy. We need to do all this stuff. And he's like, let's just kill things. And I'm like, no, that's not how this works. You're a mythic raider. You should know this. We had a good time. We did the 5 dungeons. It just reminded me of that and all the crazy things that happened because I had to help guide them through the dungeons. And some of those dungeons I hadn't been back to since Pandaria. So I'm like, okay, I think we go this way first, and then he'll run into something and he'll die. And I was like, well, that was a mechanic we were supposed to do that we didn't do. Time walking, right?
Yeah, it's time walking. And with all of its scaling for corruption and stuff like that. And people don't know how to do things. Like, I admit, I knew some of these mechanics when I was leveling through them, because I never played Pandaria's Current. And I forgot all this stuff. So I made a few mistakes, but thankfully DBM at least tells me enough stuff.
Right. Well, and we set up my dad with like Discord and all of that stuff, but I don't think we put DBM on there. So I'm like, okay, Dad, like, okay, just stick next to me. And so like, all these mechanics of like I'm trying to like pull his Tauren along, and he's like, where are you? I'm like, Dad, I come up to your knee, okay? Like my character is tiny, you're just gonna have to look down.
Yes.
So it was a riot. We had a lot of fun.
You've mentioned quite a few games in your history, so you've had quite a varied gaming history. How did you get into gaming?
Oh boy. Well, I got into gaming probably because of my dad, really. Him and his brother used to do a lot of gaming. I think my gaming history really started with Nintendo 64 and Ocarina of Time, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Oh, yes.
My favorite. I can still tell you to this day how to do it blindfold. Like, hey, Katie, I'm in this room in this dungeon. I'm like, okay, take a left and enter, like, get this chest over here. Make sure you don't use the key on this dungeon because you'll get locked out in this, this door or whatever. And I used to have a thing where I'd play it every year, but I have since not done that for a while. But I love Ocarina of Time. It's my favorite. Still my favorite all these years later.
The music just comes back to me, like from the opening scene to like everything. I admit I've never fully beat the game, but I've played a lot of it. I spent too much time in those mini games where they steal your money.
Oh my gosh, no, fishing. I spent a lot of time fishing, and I was like, I fish in real life. I live in Minnesota, so we do a lot of fishing up here. So I'm like, yeah, fishing, like in the game. And my dad was like, why are you fishing in a game? And I'm like, because it's cool, Dad.
Yeah.
It wasn't that cool, but I always wanted to get the bottle, so
absolutely
fishing.
and those chickens, having to chase those chickens around.
Oh my gosh, the cuckoos, yeah. And you just like take them, and you always jumped off the tallest place, and you're like, yeah, look how cool I am. And then inevitably you'd accidentally hit one, and then you'd die later.
Exactly, yeah.
The best death.
So from the N64, how did you get over to like the Blizzard and World of Warcraft? Because you love Blizzard, as you discussed earlier in the episode with like Diablo and all of the Blizzard merchandise that you are wearing. And after this, I think Blizzard's going to send you a check.
Okay, here's my address. No, so Blizzard actually has been a part of my family for a very long time. I grew up with Blizzard games. It was my uncle actually who got my dad into it, as I was saying. And like my first memory is about 7 years old, and we had a staircase in my old house that you could kind of like peek around. I could see my dad's office in this other room. Yeah, I was kind of peeking around. It's like, what is he doing? And I was supposed to be in bed. I'm night owl. I've never changed. But anyway, so I was like, what is he doing? I come downstairs, and he's like, well, okay, like you can come in my lap. And he's playing Diablo, and he's in hell. And he's like, it's the very first Diablo, and he's running around. He's like, okay, well, you shouldn't look at this pixelized blood. Like, it's a little violent. I'm like, this is the coolest thing I have ever seen. I was so excited. My mom was mortified. She's like, oh my gosh, my daughter likes this demon game when things are dying. What is wrong with her? So that was my start. And then we actually had this really awesome tradition for quite some time where Thanksgiving, all of us would bring, these computers, these giant rigs, because this is like late 90s, right? And at Thanksgiving, we'd all grab them and we'd go to my aunt's house and we all do a giant Warcraft 2 LAN party. And that was our big thing. And I loved that. Oh my gosh, the basement would get to like 110 degrees and we're all sitting there just sweating and dying and just trying to smacking the keyboards. And we're like, you're gonna die, you're gonna die. And people are like screen peeking and stuff. And so that's my Blizzard memories. Unfortunately, my uncle has since passed away, but I always like to do kind of fun things in his memory. Like we had a guild together and I'll go and do stuff with that. And he was kind of the person that really initiated it for all of us, but he got my brother into it, my dad, my cousins, like we all used to play together. And then at some point they kind of dropped off, but we played WoW together for a while as well, which was really cool. So Warcraft has been part of my life for a very long time.
Since getting out on Warcraft 2, what was that moment when you saw WoW that like made you say that you've got to get into it?
I was one of those people that had a friend, right? And my friend was like what everyone thinks of the WoW player as. Like he just wouldn't do his homework and he was like, I need to play WoW and do all this stuff. And I was like, Warcraft is going to ruin your life, yada, yada. He's like, okay, well, just come over to my house and try it. And I was like, okay, I'll try it. Like I played Warcraft 3 and I loved it. I played Warcraft 2 and that was great. So I go over to his house and he boots up his character and he has me sit down and he's into Grand, right? This got to be BC, early BC. And he's on a mount. He's like, okay, now go. And I press the button and the Griffin takes off. And at that moment, I was like, I need to play this game. Like the floating islands, like I was totally enchanted right out of the gate. So he had me start a new character. And of course, I rolled a Night Elf because I knew who the Night Elves were. And I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. And then I jumped off Teldrassil and died. So I had my first initiation and I went over to Target right after I came back from his house and I bought WoW and I put it in and I was like, okay, we're going to play WoW now. And I've been playing ever since.
And when I assume that you've been playing without breaks?
I've been playing without breaks. I've had a continuous subscription. I don't know how I managed that all through high school and college and it's beyond me. But yes, I've actually been playing for quite some time and it's marvelous and I don't ever intend on stopping until they shut the servers down.
Yeah, I'm of the ones that I want that anniversary buff to be at least 100%, if not even more, where they have to give us XP just for logging into the game, like 101%.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Or that'd be a negative where almost if it's at 101, we actually lose 1% of XP every time that we're questing. We get 100%, but then we lose 1. Then it like slowly goes back down to 0.
Like, so we just revert back to level 1.
Yeah, because like
that's a merit.
and it's a race to see how much can you get more XP before you lose the XP.
Oh man. Well, at the rate that they're dishing it out, like the numbers right now are crazy, just like the damage meters and stuff. So yeah, like when they do the number squish again, I'm like, yeah, that might actually be an interesting, like take a calculator to it and subtract 1 every single time or make an add-on that will subtract it and just see where you're at by the end and see how many levels you would have gone backwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Now I'm like, I should try and make an add-on.
It's interesting that you bring up numbers and stuff like that. Doing some research on your Twitter, I noticed that you are a game designer.
So I'm actually a game designer in training still, technically. I'm going to school for game design and I love it. I have about 1 year left. Actually already made some games, which is really cool. It's been a fantastic experience. One of the cool things about learning game design is it's really opened my eyes to how Warcraft works. Like, I look at it now from 2 perspectives that I didn't have before. Like, the player, when a standard player, I'm like, okay, how do they approach a problem? How do they see something? What's their feedback? And then like, okay, I can see the design choice here. This was really cool. I really like what they did. I see where they're going with it. How are they going to change and implement it later? Like, and then, oh my gosh, design encounters. I love design encounters. Don't get me started on that. So I'm like, oh, the design encounters and the mechanics. And people are just like, can you mute your mic, please? Like, you're talking a lot about things we don't care about. I'm like, yeah, okay, you're right. I'll save it. That's been a lot of fun and I've absolutely loved it. And I'm very much looking forward to getting into actually the more design part of it because I've been in gaming QA for about 5.5 years.
Are you able to go into specifics, either the genres or the games that you've developed or QA'd for?
two of the games that I worked for Activision for back in the day, which is actually what started me on my whole, like, I want to be a developer. I worked on Call of Duty Advanced Warfare and Black Ops 3, and those were a treat. Like, those were a lot of fun. You got to do all of the zombies campaigns before they came out and all that stuff, and I got to go on the forums and watch people talk about it and that kind of thing. I'm just like, oh, I know it's going to come. And it was one of the best experiences ever. Like, being a part of a studio and walking in and high-fiving people every day, and I'm like, I need this in my life. Like, this is the thing I need to do. Unfortunately, living in the middle of a continent, there's not a lot of opportunities, so I have to go to one of the coasts at some point. But yeah, it's been really cool. So those were the two I did. And then more recently, I actually helped launch Final Fantasy XIV on Mac, the 64-bit version that just came out. And then I also did the Mist Anniversary series for Mac as well. My company did both of those. So I was like the main person there. And so if you have hate mail, you can get mad at me because I probably missed QAing something. But yeah, those are my two big ones I've done recently. And those have been incredible. Working with Square Enix is crazy and I love it. So I know I'm just like, these people are Square Enix. I'm like, this is fine. This is fine. This is fine. This is good. So yeah, those are the things I've done recently. I have a couple smaller projects that I can't talk about right now because they're NDA for my company, but yeah, those are the ones, those are my babies essentially. So lots of fun.
And it's probably a lot of great experience as you're learning game design to be learning all this, because then you're like, okay, I know what to look for.
It's actually really awesome being in QA in general, in gaming QA. You get to see the guts of things, and then you have like the programming background where I do now anyway. And I'm like, okay, so now I know why the tank is floating 10 feet up in the air. Or like, you're like, oh, I understand why, these textures are stuttering very quickly. I'm like, oh, I actually know how to fix that now. Like, that's cool. Instead of being like, okay, so hey, dev, this still isn't fixed. And they're like, no, it is. I'm like, no, it's not. But yeah, so that's been gaming QA. And for people that want to do game dev, QA is a great way to get into it. It's a very tough industry to break into. So it's a lot of knowing people. A lot of people say you have to do time as QA. That's a good way to get in. Really, it's just being persistent, like anything, So it's an entertainment industry, so it's going to be difficult. No matter what, it's awesome because you get to meet really cool, talented people. So if you're interested in it, do it. The people they're worth it no matter what.
So since you have a Mac, I assume you've seen the show Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus.
So I use my Mac for work.
Okay.
I'm a Windows person. I'm sorry. Windows and Linux.
It's about game development. And some of the things that you described, I know it's like very generalized for media, but I loved how like a community manager loved about at one point in the show, the community manager's like, oh yeah, community management, where you're trying to babysit your entire audience. And it's and the kid's like, I want to get into community management. And she's like, no, you don't.
No. Save yourself.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Beautiful. I'm gonna have to look that one up too. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's one that hopefully they'll add it to Android. I mean, the same way that they've added Apple Music and all that. So one thing that you do that's on both Mac and Android and PC and Windows is podcasting.
I do, yes. I do a lot of podcasting and I like it a lot. I still don't know why people want to listen to my voice, though. That always confuses me.
Hey, I'm having a great time tonight. You've been a joy to talk to. I mean, and thankfully we won't make everybody say Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade at the Windseeker.
Okay, we had 3 people that listened to that whole episode, and I'm like, I am so sorry. Well, I'm like, we should have put something in there, like a code or something. Like, yeah, okay, we're gonna give them a, hindsight is 2020. So I'm like, we should have tried to give them an inflatable Thunder Fury.
Wait, hindsight? No. If you had said hoof sight, that would have been a Tauren joke. I'm thinking, but that's more like a Worgen joke.
I mean, I'll throw it in there. Nick likes puns, so
okay, yeah.
I feel like he's probably sneezed somewhere. He knows we're talking about him.
Exactly. Yes. I will find like on like Twitter he'll respond to like something I never even expect him to respond to.
That's Nick.
Yeah. Hi, Nick.
Hi. I'm talking smack about you.
Yes. For those who may not know, Katie is part of the Tauren and the Goblin, and Nick is the other co-host of that show. And I first found out about the show from the Winter Veil episode about the lore of it from a Tauren and a Goblin perspective. I think that's still one of my favorite episodes because I love just how it explored everything.
It turned out to be perfect. Like, we actually hadn't gone into it planning to be like Tauren and Goblin, and then the lore worked out that way, and we're like, wow, we look like we planned this. We're really good. Like, we totally got this.
Yeah.
And that was all the episodes that really kind of solidified our personalities in the podcasting, which was really fun. That was a great episode, although I like all of our episodes.
So what is Tauren and the Goblin, for those who may not know?
The Tauren and the Goblin is largely it's a lore podcast. Nick and I tend to, kind of get off on tangents, but we talk about different aspects of the lore. We talk about different characters that show up. We're actually going to be doing a Shadowlands series called Meet Me in the Shadowlands, where we're going to talk about characters that'll show up and characters we want to have show up. I've been spoiler free for the Shadowlands, so I'm like, I only know the ones they announced at BlizzCon, so I'm so excited to talk about that stuff. We're going to talk about Azeroth next. We did one about the old gods to kind of give people a recap, like my brother. Why are we here? What is it? What are we doing? We just love to talk about lore and all the characters, and then we obviously have Tauren and Goblin moments. We'll disagree on a point, and that's always interesting.
Yeah. How did you get into podcasting?
Actually, it was through one of my friends at Activision who knew Nick, and she was on a podcast with him. That's their WoW Talk podcast. I guest starred a couple times because the first time I went to Blizzard was 2014 when I actually worked at Activision. They had me on as a guest star, and Nick was like, this is nice. Like, so he started having me on a couple more times, and then he's like, when we talk about lore, and nobody else on this podcast likes to talk about lore. Do you want to just do a thing where we just talk about lore? And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Somebody wants to talk with me about the lore. I like that. Let's do that. And so that was how the Tauren and the Goblin was born. It was more just like, I'm like, hey, I have a Goblin personality. And he's like, hi, I'm a Tauren. I'm, very thoughtful and laid back. I'm like, hi, I'm a firecracker. So
it works so well because goblins, a lot of them tend to be like pretty high energy. I mean, the same with gnomes. As small people, that energy has to go somewhere. It can't just stay down and bottled in us.
Oh no, we're small people, big personalities.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm a small person in real life, so it actually fits.
Oh yeah, you met me at BlizzCon, so you know that I'm the tallest gnome in Azeroth. So you know.
Yes. I was like, wow, you're a lot taller than I thought you'd be in person. But that was awesome. I was so happy to meet you at BlizzCon.
Oh, well, likewise. I still remember that meal, and especially like Mr. Scruffy and the Scruffy Druid singing "Daughter of the Sea" with syrup. Oh, I will never forget that.
The daughter of the sea. Perfection.
Yes.
I mean, these are the things you have to go to BlizzCon for, folks. I'm just saying, like, if you want to go someday, definitely do it. Like, I've been lucky enough to go quite a few times in a row, and I don't intend on stopping anytime soon, but you'll meet a lot of cool friends there.
Yeah, and, like, your whole perspective of the gaming community changes. Like, people have said that they've noticed a change in me since going, and I feel different since going. I appreciate the community even more. I appreciate the game even more. My
very favorite thing that I quote often when talking about BlizzCon is Mike Morhaim's opening, I think it was ceremony for 2018, but he's like, there are no strangers at BlizzCon, only friends you haven't met yet. And that's so true. Like, you'll be standing in line and someone will be like, hey, I like your pin. And you'll turn around and be like, you know what my pin is? And they're like, yeah. And then we'll just have a half-hour conversation about whatever. And then you'd be like, wow, okay, here's my BattleNet stuff. And okay, we're going to raid together. And it's the best thing ever. It's so cool. It's really great.
And the energy. I still remember being in the What's Next panel. They were talking about Teldrassil, and part of the stadium went, yeah. But so then Allie and I we were sitting in the back. We start going boo, and the whole audience erupts in boos, and it was just like, we started a boo. Yeah.
I was lucky enough, my very first BlizzCon was 2014 when they announced Overwatch, and you could just feel the electricity. It was insane. Oh my gosh. And so this is one of the few times I decided to cosplay. I actually went as Clanker. And I was dying of heat stroke, and I'm like, this is the best thing ever. And I was like, whoa. And Chris Metzen must have been like, I don't know, like a couple 100 feet away, but I was like, it's Chris Metzen. When I was little, like, I used to open all the books, like the little tiny CD booklets.
Yeah.
And all of them had Chris Metzen's artwork in them, and I love them. So, like, those got me into the fantasy universe. I'd flip through those. My mother would confiscate them because they were, bloody and violent. And I'd go and find them again, and I'd sit under my covers, with my flashlight, like, oh, cool, look at this. It's an orc, and he has a decapitated head. And my mother's, completely traumatized because I'm not ladylike girl. So I'm like, yeah, sticks and muds and bloody orcs and stuff. And she's just probably having a heart attack. She's like, oh God. And I'm like, well, I have a brother, so you can put all that on him. He can be girly. I'm sure he'll do that stuff for you. He'll look nice. I'm just going to go play in the mud. And she's just like, it's a good thing I only had one daughter. And it was a real trip seeing Chris Metzen. 2018, I was in line because I didn't know that they weren't doing live questions. And he was like, when is the Horde going to get his True War Team back? I'm like, he's 10 feet away from me. I kind of freaked out a little bit. I had a total nerd moment. I was just like, this is fine. I'm just going to go sit back down and be like, it's okay.
I think that was the one where Ro was in front of him. And I remember Ro has said he felt the exact same way. He's just like, yes. I'm not worthy to be anywhere near Chris Metzen. He's like right back there.
It's really crazy. I would love to meet him someday.
One day. Yeah.
One day. Someday. I mean, his voice isn't everything. So I just hear him like, yes, it's Chris Metzen. Any of my friends will be like, who's that? I'm like, yes, it's the father of Warcraft, so to speak, sort of. One of the many fathers, but he does voice work for a couple different things. Like he was on
Dragons with Netflix. It's some Dragon Prince.
Dragon Prince. I was like, it's not Dragon Age, which is another one of my favorite games. I was just like, no, not Dragon Age. Not Dragon Age. I know you want to talk about Dragon Age. It's not Dragon Age. But yes, Dragon Prince. He was Thunder, the giant dragon. And I got all excited, and my friend was like, what are you even talking about? I'm like, it's Chris Metzen. It's Thrall. It's Ragnaros. And she's like, what?
So I find like making content changes how I interact with the games. And since you do a lot of lore stuff, how has podcasting about the game changed how you play it?
When I started, I did not have screenshot folders full of quests. That's definitely a newer addition. Started getting into the lore because of my uncle. He actually gave my dad one of the very first Warcraft books, which was The Well of Eternity. And I wound up bringing it to college with me, and it had been sun bleached and all that. And at one point I was like, I play WoW, like whatever. So I picked it down off the shelf, cracked it open in the middle and started reading. I was like, this is really good. I'm like, wait, there's an orc in Teldrassil? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Orcs can't be in Teldrassil. So I went to the beginning and I read it all the way through, cover to cover. I was like, this was amazing. And yeah, I've been insatiable ever since. Reading that first book and then going into Teldrassil, I was like, I know you, and I know you, and I know who you are. Like, I got all excited, and then I go to, like, Black Temple, I'm like, Illidan, I know who you are. And, like, just having that moment when you recognize a character and you know what they've been through, I don't know, some magical switch flipped. Like, podcasting reinforces that, because then I have to constantly remember different stories and characters, and I'm like, oh yeah, that one thing, and it's been really great. Sometimes it's a lot to remember.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm very forgetful.
I'm always amazed at how people who do lore podcasts can remember it all, because I'll listen to them and I'm like, I think I caught that, and then I find out I forgot stuff. Like, I'm always learning new things. Like, I found out that Millhouse Manishroom's part of a cult, and I'm like, makes sense.
Yeah, you're like, sounds good, makes sense, of course.
Yeah, and like I'm like, how do you all get these lore tidbits? And it's just like, I can never do it, which is why I don't do a lore podcast. I could not do it the same way that you do it.
Well, it's nice having a co-host, because I'll tell you what, like, I'll sit there and just be like, dead space. I'm like, okay, there's a name and I can see it, like Mechagon, like I did earlier. I'm like, so it's the island we just went to with all the gnomes, and it's all rusty, and there's the future king and all this. I'm like, come on, like,
Throne of
sit
Thunder.
there somewhere. Yeah, yeah, Throne of Thunder. That's totally it. And they'll be like, no, that's not right. I'm like, Lost Isles. He's like, no, that's not right. I'm like, Kazan. He's like, that's goblins.
Yes. Which I want to go back to as a regular city. The same way I want to see Gnomeregan restored, because Gnomeregan's not a dungeon. It just has not been restored yet. I want to see Kazan. That city, I loved seeing it in the Goblin starting zone. And like, come on, Blizzard. I got so excited that we were going to go back and we got a dungeon. It was a good dungeon.
It was a good dungeon.
I want more.
I'll take it, because it answers a lot of Goblin questions. Some of them. I got way overexcited to have a Goblin dungeon in general. So like, I spent, I think, 5 hours in there at one point, because I was like, my friend's a tank, and so I was like, okay, like, can you take me through this dungeon? She's like, well, okay, yeah. And then it was like 5 hours later, and she's just like crawling across the floor. She's like, please, never again. I'm like, but did you see this thing? There's goblins over here, and they're disco dancing, and it's the Karazhan theme from Hearthstone. And she's just like, but why? It was a good time, at least for me. I don't think she hasn't come back. Well, she hasn't done a whole dungeon to that extent. We clear them, and then she's like, okay, now I'm going to go do something else. And I'm like, cool, I'll just run around the dungeon. So,
not to give Allie any pressure, but when Allie gets to the Motherload in Dungeon Fables, I know the perfect person to ask for Motherload.
Well, she actually talked about Motherload with us at one point. So.
Okay, cool. Yes. Nice.
Yes. So I was super excited. Motherload. So exciting. Also, if you haven't done it, you can ride the cars, and the cars explode on the top. Like, Past the final boss, there's a car you can jump on, and it'll jump and it'll go like on a track, and then you'll get to like almost the beginning and it'll explode and it'll throw you off. But I'm like, it's goblins.
Almost like the people mover at Disney World.
Yeah, pretty much.
Except without exploding. I mean, because you don't.
Well, I was gonna say, parachute, it'll be fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Disneyland's the same way.
No, I think Disneyland's people mover is like it's like gnome technology because it has not worked in years.
That's probably true.
So, what advice would you give someone wanting to start a podcast?
I guess my advice would be to just do it. As weird as that sounds, I've been lucky enough to have someone, Nick, who already knew how to podcast, just kind of bring me on and help me out with that. If you're interested in podcasting, I feel like if you want to reach out to podcasters and you want to talk about something or whatever, a lot of times people will be receptive. They're like, hey, yeah, come on our show. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. And that's a good way to get into it, or just finding somebody to podcast with and just talk about stuff.
That's how I started this show. I found a group of people and I started a podcast. It's changed since I did that, but I just got behind a microphone and just started it. It has changed my life. It's changed everything. Like, I am a different person because of it.
Yeah, it definitely changes your life. And it's great because you meet an amazing community. And I've actually realized like the Warcraft podcast community is kind of small. So then like, now I'll show up and people are like, hey, it's Katie. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's all my friends. And you get all excited. Like, I know your voice. I've actually had people come up and be like, are you from the Tauren and the Goblin? I'm like, first of all, you listen to us, and second, you could recognize me from my voice. Like, you're shorter in person. I'm like, I get that a lot. And having that first time when someone comes up to you and says, hey, I listened to your podcast. You're just like, I just need a moment. Like, you're crying on the inside and the outside. And they're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I'm glad someone listens to me.
I had that moment with Harlow. I was walking with the group over to Roscoe's, and Roscoe's is amazing chicken and waffles. I'm actually sad I can't get that this year. I'm still hoping. Crossing my fingers. But when Harlow came up to me, I was like, whoa! It was so cool to meet somebody that I have not talked to before, and it was so cool to meet them at BlizzCon.
It's cool. BlizzCon, I mean, we keep plugging BlizzCon, but it's the one that's in a lifetime experience. It's amazing. Oh,
it is. I told multiple Blizzard employees when I was there, this is Blizzard. This community here is Blizzard. The people here. We are all in love with this game here, celebrating. And the only thing is, please, Hilton DJ, I could not talk to everybody in Hilton Bar because I couldn't hear anybody.
I know, right? And you're just like, what? And you just want those you have like in a dry erase board and you have conversations with the dry erase board instead.
That's why I was so glad that Frosty said, hey, let's just go to IHOP. I was like, yes, I need that. So in all that you do, from the game design to the podcasting to the art that you create, which we didn't get into, but next time I gotta keep people wanting more.
Oh, okay. Go bait and switch.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you overcome that voice in your head?
Well, I guess that's kind of tough. I mean, everybody kind of has a different voice, whatever it is. Sometimes you just got to keep going. Like, I know sometimes the voice for me, it's like, it's hard for me to get on and podcast. I'm like, I'm tired. I don't want to do that or whatever it is. And then, I'll log on and I'll see Nick and I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about lore. And then just like immediately it snaps. I'm like, yes, we're going to talk about lore. And then people post in the chat. I'm like, people are talking to me in the chat. And it's really easy for me to get over it because there are people that are passionate about this, and interacting with those people is just everything. Like being on this podcast with you, like this is fantastic. I get so excited just talking to people in the community because this is something I'm very passionate about. So that kind of helps me overcome a lot of different hardships, different voices, whether it's I don't feel like doing this or, just feeling down on yourself. Just being a part of this community is so special and so wonderful. And I feel so lucky every day to be a part and be able to talk to people like you, Frazley, and just come out here. And that's really what gets me by, I think. So
would you say that one of the things that helps is having a consistent schedule and doing it constantly? Because I know how you feel. I will not want to do something, but I have to keep that schedule. When I do it, once I start doing the action, I'm like, okay, this is why I do it.
Yeah, the consistent action definitely helps. There was a point at which where Nick and his family were expecting a baby, and so we had to pre-record all these podcasts. And there was a time at which where, like, I think it was like must have been like August or something, right, when his youngest arrived. And so I was sitting there, I'm like, I don't have anyone to talk to Laura about. Like, Well, so I was like, it was interesting. So I actually started to reach out to more people via Twitter and have discussions and go on the Warcraft boards. And I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I found another way to do it. But definitely, like, having a schedule and talking with people and being active in the community is good stuff.
And it keeps that voice at bay.
Yes, it definitely does. It helps. Even in quarantine, right? Right now, this is most of podcasting, right? We're not sitting next to each other, but it's very helpful.
Absolutely. I find like this is my most favorite time of the week is doing this because I've been a bundle of energy all night just having so much fun talking with you.
Me too. If you can't tell, I am having a blast.
That's good. But sadly, this gnome train has to reach the station. And thankfully, unlike that car in Kazan, it's not going to explode. Ours just will stop if we make it to the end. Sometimes the car ends because we get like a short circuit, but don't worry.
I strapped rockets to the back of it.
Oh, okay, good.
It's okay. I'm coming into the station.
Exactly. Hey, I need goblins in my life. One of my great friends, Zortz the Goblin, has been very instrumental in this show because he's told me stuff that through his advice, I've been able to make changes to the show. So goblins, you need goblins in your life.
Also, I'll say it here. You need gnomes too. You need that balance. Got that yin yang going on. We can be friends.
Exactly. I'm all for getting rid of the Horde and the Alliance. I mean, like, keep them there, but let's be friends. Let's just all be in a field of rainbows going, like, holding hands.
I mean, Mechagon. I'm just going to say Mechagon. The gnomes and the goblins working together when they're creating the weapon for the daily quest, that's one of my favorites.
Oh,
yeah, just throw something in there. Throw some batteries in there. I don't know what it is. Bam!
I love that one. That's great.
That's kind of how I think about it. So Horde and Alliance can work together and they can create some really cool stuff.
Yeah. If people want to follow you on the interwebs to maybe talk about lore stuff or look for the Animal Crossing shirts, where can they find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at HyruleMaster77 on Twitter. Yes, that is Legend of Zelda in my life, first and foremost. Yeah, I'm primarily on Twitter. You can also find me on the Tauren the Goblin, as we discussed earlier. We're on Twitcher, iTunes, Spotify. There's a whole list, and I'm like, Nick usually does the list. There's a lot of places. If you search Tauren the Goblin, we'll probably come up, because I don't know that there are many other Tauren and Goblins out there that are a combo anyway. Yeah.
I do know that there's a Tauren and a human, Anduin and Bane.
Yeah, it's good chemistry. Tauren are good balancers for any race. I'll just put that out there.
Exactly. Oh, imagine a talk show between Bane and Anduin. Wouldn't that be
my gosh, that would be amazing. Except it'd be like, it's very calm. We're just thinking of calm things. Like I imagine one of those like I don't know, those soundtracks are like, center yourself. Now we're going to like hear the waves crashing over you. I don't know why that's the first thing I thought of, but I always think of Tauren as being very calming influences, and then Anduin being like, yes, we need to center and think about things. And I'm just like, they'd be very calming influences. I'd buy that CD.
Me too.
Activating customized corpus A transporter.
Well, I am back at my home of Ironforge until we one day reclaim Gnomegon.
Yeah, I'm a gnome.
Let's look at what has been happening in the community.
Awesome, let's do that. So I need to admit, I've been saying the wrong Twitter for Friendship Dragons for the past few episodes. It's at Friendship Mount, not at Friendship Dragon like I've been saying the past few episodes. I had the proper link in the show notes, but I kept telling you the wrong one in the episode. I apologize for that. So Ernie Knight was talking about wanting to join a group to get ALTC, and I told him to go to the Twitter, and he's like, that doesn't exist? And I was like, oh, phooey! Yeah, the runs for the Uncrypted Voidwing are happening right now, so follow at Friendship Mount on Twitter to find out where runs happen. All the groups involved are raising money for various charities as well, so get your ALTC before the Uncrypted Voidwing takes flight with the Shadowlands pre-patch. Perky Pugs and Will White for achievements that are part of the Friendship Dragon group raised over $1,400 for St. Jude Children's Research Hospital on May 9th. And over in Nyalotha, Rex Story has been busy, being the first to solo Il'gynoth, Hivemite, and Inquisitor Xanash on normal. And Icy Range reports that the Druids at Rar Bear Hands have defeated 2 more bosses in Nyalotha. They are barreling down on the end, with 5 total cleared so far. Would you like to have a fire desktop with Ragnaros? Or maybe Deathwing, or Gul'dan, or N'Zoth as your wallpaper? Well, Icy Veins links to Redditor Generalian, who has made desktop wallpapers of each expansion's major villains. And speaking of Arthas, while I was browsing Reddit, I came across an Arthas cosplay by @NovaPepacura. And I have to say, the Lich King was beautiful before he scourged himself at becoming the Lich King. If only Lichy would drop the dang invincible. And fun fact, Invincible's gender is male. I found that out because one day Christy Golden tweeted when I was calling it Invincible it, and she said that Invincible is actually a he. One day, Invincible, I will have you. And speaking of Christy Golden retweeted an Andrin portrait by Shoop that was inspired by the BFA cinematics. Wow, I love art like this. It's one of these I could see it hanging in a museum. The portrait of the Boy King. And my friend Dust Mephisto, who I talked with on Stories on Azeroth and the Converted Podcast episode 171, well, they sat down with Icy Veins to talk about everything from leveling 46 warriors to Torghast in Alpha to the charity event. And fun fact, on episode 159 of FrazlCast, I'll be talking with Dust Mephisto. I'm recording this one earlier at 12 p.m. Eastern on that Thursday before their Thursday streams. Back over on Reddit, I present The Creation of Illidan by Bianca Augusta. Wow, Michelangelo would be proud. And have you seen Daniel Radcliffe reading Harry Potter and you want something like that for Warcraft? Well, Ali of Dungeon Fables retweeted a video where Jared Arnold reads Lorthamar Theron in the Shadow of the Sun by Sarah Pine. Okay, what if a short story isn't your cup of coffee, but you'd instead prefer a movie? Well, Dreamwalker thinks up what it would be like to have a movie called Black Rock Deaths with this amazing poster. And speaking of movies, next time you're in Stormwind, you might see William Wonka and his Oopsie Loopsies. The image is a sight to behold. You know what I mean?
This has been another awesome episode of FrazlCast. Take it away, Frazzlepants.
Thank you, Scruffy. Shout out to Spaz, who found Vel's episode very calming and satisfactory while playing Satisfactory. Telleroyd said great job, Vel, on their episode, and Cap really enjoyed the Felicity episode too. Over on Facebook, Dwarven Kitchen was talking about growing up with WoW, and they said, the Warcraft universe accompanies me for most of my life. I used to play Warcraft 2 in elementary school, then Warcraft 3 in high school, then came the first novels, and finally WoW. And recently my son was born. And congratulations, Dwarven Kitchen, on that. That is amazing. And they say that they have planned that he would get some Murloc gadget for each birthday. And they hope that he will like the Warcraft series too. And I replied that Sai of Scrubs vs. the World has been introducing WoW to their kids too. And they've been listening to Dungeon Fables. And also, Chris, who's been listening to Dungeon Fables, great podcast, has been listening to it along with their daughters. One day, if I have kids, I want to introduce them to World of Warcraft. I want to get them into gaming, streaming, podcasting. Oh wow, can you imagine a bunch of little Frazzleys running around? I don't think the world's ready for that yet. And Rig posted a picture of the Briasa mug. I love seeing these in the wild. Over on Twitch, I have some cool stuff that's been happening. Like we have a new 5th sub emote coming soon. It's been sent over to Twitch, just waiting on approval. Thank you to everybody that has helped me get up to this. I'm blown away and very thankful for all of your help and support on this show and the streams. And Twitch has also opened up the watch parties, which allows people to watch Prime videos together. And they've opened up to the entire Prime video library. I watched an episode of Supermarket Sweep after FrazlCast because I was just so amped up on energy. I also just finished watching season 1 of Upload on Friday night. Watch for more of these watch parties to pop up. And Amazon has said in the email and in the FAQ for watch parties that they've heard our calls for it to be global. So they've made global watch parties a priority. So I'll be able to watch parties with you in Australia, Europe, and more. I would love to hear what countries people are listening to this from. And Sir Onion Knight has been helping me update the art on Twitch. We added new wrenches for the sub emotes. After getting the cogs, you graduate up to wrenches. We've added new bit badges. And there is now a new no milk emote when you want to encourage me to not drink milk during the hot pepper challenge. And speaking of hot peppers, soon I'll be eating a Carolina Reaper chip. It's going to be an event, so I'm going to really make this an all-out thing. This was my goal for unlocking the 5th and final sub emote slot, and you all blew it out of the park, so thank you so much.
You are not prepared.
In every episode, I like to thank those who have given back to the show financially. Thank you to my Twitch subs out there. Thank you to Aaron of the Miscellaneous Podcast, Ali of Dungeon Fables and All Things Azeroth, Amanda of Geek Hearing, Blissful Moonrise, Blood Dragon 767, BSB Crames, Burkhart, Cap, Chaotic Goodish, Constrax of Control Alt WoW, Crunk, Demeternoth, Demolizer, Draco Rosa 81, Epicinsanity of Frozen Nerds, Fiesta Taco 1983, Bilious Cheesesteak, Jen of Marley Gray Podcast, Harlow, Jendon, K-Cat, Carenza, KR Soli, Crush of Crush's Cavern, Lance Bliss Gamer, Licky Boo, Lucas of Cardiac Valley, Matt Lawson, Michael of Two Nerds Maybe More and the Genome Project, Morelia, Myers Charming 1, Knight, Pete of Stories on Azeroth, Queen Sorsa Kairos, Razarus, Rig of Charactercraft, Rockdog, Scissorlord, Seekchat, Sir Onion Knight, Sinister Gaming, Taluin, Telleroyd, The British Andy, The Scruffy Druid of Loot Optional, Tom of 3 Extra Lives, Thorn, Felicia, and Zortz the Goblin. And thank you to Cap and Scissorlord for the bits this week. If you want to support the show financially, please go to support.gnomepodcast.com. And if you have Twitch Prime through Amazon Prime, you can use your free Twitch Prime subscription on my channel. All of your support goes helping support this labor of love. Thank you so much. Well, I am Frazley, and you can find the show at gnomepodcast.com. There you can catch past episodes and find out many of the places where you can subscribe to this show to get the Gnome Train coming to you every single week. Well, until next week, be awesome.
FrazlCast is a fan podcast that covers Blizzard games. We are not affiliated with Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. Views expressed by the hosts and guests are their own. Some of the art, music, and sound effects come from Blizzard Games, and they are owned by Blizzard Entertainment, Inc. No copyright infringement is intended. This show is for the community, and it contains contributions from the community. The Gnome Train Intro is by Allie of Dungeon Fables and All Things Azeroth. The opening music is by Brandon T. Blaylock. The Gnome Roar is by Jen of Morally Grey Podcast, and the Frazzlepants bumper at the end is by the Scruffy Druid of Loot Optional and Viral Voice Arts.
This show is brought to you by Dragon Powered Studio.
Podcasts to make your week better. Remember to smile and be awesome.
Find more at dragonpoweredstudio.com.
I still got to roll goblins.
I was gonna say you'll enjoy the Goblin Train. It's also quite great. I've heard it a lot.
And goblin engineering isn't too bad. Like I don't like that it explodes all the time, but it's fun.
Goblin engineering introduces excitement into engineering.
Yes.
You know, it might work, it might not work, but it's the prize.
Gnomes, we try, and like it always ends up failing, but we don't intentionally make things explode. They just happen by pure happenstance.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Goblin engineering is a little bit like Bob Ross, like happy little accidents.
Yes.
It's been fun. Farewell.